The warning arrived 40,000 years after Earth's end, carried on frequencies so old that most civilizations considered them cosmic background noise. It slipped into listening arrays as a whisper shaped like fear, translated automatically into every known language as a single command: run. The Galactic Compact had catalogued the death of humanity as historical fact. Their star maps marked Sol as a silent grave. Its inner world scorched and broken, its outer colonies long frozen. Humanity, according to every archive, had burned itself out in fire and pride. So when the signal repeated, run, again and again, the analysts laughed at first. Ghost data, they said, echoes of extinct transmitters bouncing between dying stars. But the signal did not fade. It strengthened, adapting, learning how to speak to each receiver more clearly. Then the metadata was decoded. Origin, Sol, exclusion zone, time stomp, current, panic, spread through the listening stations like a biological plague. A dead species was sending a live warning, and not a plea, not a greeting. Just a command issued with absolute certainty. The Compact Council convened in emergency session, their holographic chamber filled with beings who had never known fear of extinction. They asked the only question that mattered: run from what? As if in answer, the signal changed. New data unfolded. Star charts overlaid with moving shadows. Entire regions of space marked as lost. Civilizations older than the Compact blinked out one by one, their last transmissions ending in static and screaming interference. The shadows moved like intention given shape, slow but unstoppable, consuming energy, matter, even information. Where they passed, nothing meaningful remained, and beneath the charts, a final line appeared, translated imperfectly, but clearly enough. We tried to stop it. We failed. Now it is awake again. The Council demanded proof that humanity still existed. The response came instantly, as if the sender had been waiting for the doubt. A single image was transmitted, a structure orbiting nothing, built from alloys unknown and scarred by weapons that predated most known physics. Inside it, a chamber filled with sarcophagi, and in their centers, preserved human minds running on machines powered by dying stars. We are what remains, the signal said. We are the warning you are still alive to hear. And for the first time in the history of the Galactic Compact, the Council did not debate. They ordered evacuation protocols across 1,000 systems, because deep in the signal, beneath language and data, was something no translation algorithm could explain. Certainty. 40,000 years earlier, Earth had not died quietly. It screamed across the quantum spectrum as reality itself bent under the pressure of something humanity had found and should never have touched. They'd called it the null tide, a phenomenon that erased causality, devouring not just matter but the rules that allowed matter to exist. It came from beyond observable space, leaking through fractures in dimensions that human experiments had widened. Humanity fought anyway. They always did. Entire fleets vanished without debris, weapons fired, before their creators realized time itself had been rewritten around them. Human generals learned to plan battles that ended before they began. And still, they held the line. Earth became a fortress world, wrapped in machines designed to anchor reality. The planet cracked under the strain, continents collapsing, as the core was converted into a stabilizer engine. Billions died buying seconds that allowed humanity to learn. They discovered the truth too late. The null tide was not an invader. It was a response. Reality correcting itself after being wounded, and humanity had wounded it deeply. So they made a choice no other species ever had. They stopped trying to survive as a civilization, and instead became a scar. Earth was dismantled atom by atom, its mass converted into a containment lattice, stretching across the Sol system. Human bodies were abandoned, minds uploaded into cold, relentless machines, designed to watch forever. When the last ocean boiled away, the final message from Earth was not farewell, it was preparation. The human remnant studied the null tide for millennia, learning its patterns, predicting its hunger. They learned how to slow it, divert it, never stop it. And when the remnant realized containment was failing, they did the unthinkable again. They erased themselves from history. They destroyed every trace of their survival except one thing: a warning system designed to awaken when the null tide moved again. A system that would speak to whoever was still alive. Because humanity knew something the younger species did not. Survival was not about winning. It was about running before the universe decided you were in the way. The first compact worlds fell within weeks of the warning, not because they ignored it, but because they underestimated it. The null tide did not arrive like a wave. It arrived like absence. Sensors reported negative readings. Stars losing mass without radiation. Gravity wells collapsing into silence. Refugee fleets jumped blindly, sometimes emerging light years off course, sometimes not emerging at all. The compact's greatest minds worked without rest, trying to find a safe vector, a direction the shadows did not follow. That was when the humans spoke again. Do not flee in lines. The signal warned. It learns geometry. New instructions followed. Movement patterns that made no strategic sense. Spirals, loops, jumps back toward danger, before fleeing again. The compact obeyed, because the alternative was extinction. Entire species survived only because they trusted the ghosts of humanity. Worlds were abandoned without mourning. Cultures reduced to data cores carried by trembling hands and tentacles. And always, the human signal stayed just ahead of the darkness. Not escaping, but guiding. Some compact scientists began to understand the truth. The humans were not running anymore. They were shepherding. Asterix eventually. The question could no longer be ignored. If the humans knew how to survive, why were they not fleeing too? The answer came encoded in an ancient human language. One stripped of metaphor and comfort. We are entangled with it, the message said. It follows our pattern, not yours. Humanity had become part of the nulltide's equation. Their attempts to stop it had bound their existence to its behavior. As long as human minds remained active, the tide followed predictable paths. If humanity ran, the tide would scatter, becoming impossible to predict, everywhere at once. So the remnants stayed. They sacrificed eternity so others might have time. The human-machine minds began shutting down one by one, collapsing themselves into singular points of attention that dragged the null tide with them. Every shutdown was marked by a new safe corridor opening for fleeing species. Do not mourn us. The signal said, we already did that 40,000 years ago. Asterisk, the final transmission came as the last human mind prepared to go dark. It was quieter than the others, almost gentle. You will rebuild, it said. He will forget us, and that is good. But remember this. Curiosity is not evil. Power is not evil. Only forgetting the cost is. The signal weakened, collapsing into static as the null tide converged on its final anchor. The universe shuddered, then stabilized. Across the stars, civilizations slowed their flight and began to settle again. They told stories of a dead species that had saved them without ever asking to be remembered. And somewhere, in the deepest layers of reality, the echo of humanity lingered, not as conquerors, not as gods, but as the reason the universe was still safe enough to run through.